Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to be kicking off a new series where I cover all of the classes in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and kind of do a little overview on them. And today we're going to be covering the Artificer. So here is our agenda for this video. I'm going to kind of introduce the series and talk about where this is and like the overall context of what I want to put out on the channel. And then I'll do a discussion on the of the Artificer class as a whole, kind of an overview and what the role of the core class is. Then we'll do some class feature discussion. So I'll talk about the features that the Artificer gets from level 1 to level 20, and I've kind of broken it down there into sections to make navigating that a little easier. Then I'll talk about multiclassing the Artificer a little bit, what the requirements are, what the benefits are, and some of the potential combinations, the straightforward ones at least, that you can use. And then I will kind of do a summary, and I will rate all the aspects of the core class out of 5. So, our series intro. So the goal of this series is to provide an overview of what each class is and kind of as a foundation to do reviews on subclasses in general. Well, I'm going to talk about what the subclasses that each class has. I'm not going to dive into detail in these videos on all of the subclass features because that is way too much. So as a result, when we do the ratings, these will not be in the context of what the subclasses are and just the core class. So I'm planning on covering all the classes in the game in alphabetical order. That's why we're starting up here with A. And I'm probably going to do this bi-weekly. I'm going to try to alternate with build videos, as those are a lot of content and take a while to produce. And this way I can kind of layer things. So I keep putting out cool and exciting builds while at the same time producing this kind of content, that kind of thing. So another goal here is to help you, the viewers, and myself understand the ins and outs of each class and inspire new characters. And that's really kind of what I want to get out of this series is, maybe I can help you see a class in a different light that you had before. So, class overview and role. What is the Artificer? So, the Artificer is the newest class to the game. They're the only official class that was added after the player's handbook, and they were officially added in the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything book and are fully detailed there. They are an intelligence-based half-caster, and they are a prepared caster, which means that they have a master list of all their spells, and you can potentially swap up their spells on a long rest. Importantly, what I would say the core role of this class is you are a flexible controller and support character. You are also a tool expert. And the way that this class is kind of flavored is you are a caster, but a lot of your magic comes from your manipulation of technology and science and that kind of thing. And it's a really cool class, and it's something that I'm very happy that they put in the game. Another important thing here is kind of due to their skill set and some of their spells, they are a good secondary infiltrator or investigator type character for the party. So, class feature discussions. What do artificers get, and what makes them good and interesting? So at level 1, so they have a hit dice of a D8. This is the second lowest. I believe the lowest only belongs to sorcerers and wizards, but a lot of classes have a D8, so this isn't really, this is about middle of the road. They are proficient with light and medium armor as well as shields. They are proficient with simple weapons, and they are proficient with thieves' tools, tinker's tools, and another kind of artisan's tools of their choice. They are proficient in Constitution and Intelligence saving throws, and they get to pick 2 skills from the following list: Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Perception, and Sleight of Hand. Additionally, they are proficient with firearms if they are available in your game, and this will be different at every table, but that is something that they have. At level 1, they also get a magical tinkering feature, which is basically a flavor thing. You can enchant like a small object and have it produce some kind of effect, and you can like leave messages and make things wander around. This is really more of a role-playing out of combat tool. They also get their spell casting, and this is something that artificers get that's unique among all half-casters. All other half-casters have to wait until level 2 before they actually get their spells, but artificers are unique in that they get their stuff at level 1. So they get 2 first level spell slots, they get 2 cantrips. The casting focus that artificers use is a tool, but later on they'll be able to use something else. and they can prepare a number of Artificer spells equal to half their level rounded down, plus their intelligence modifier. So intelligence is their casting stat, and they are a ritual caster, which means that they can cast any spell that has the ritual tag that they have prepared. They can cast that spell without spending a spell slot if you add 10-minute casting time. And this is just something that, again, helps them with utility. Now, in terms of their spell list, cantrips that they have a lot of the good utility ones like guidance, and their cantrips are generally more short range or melee focused. They have access to the full set of blade cantrips, so booming blade, green flame blade, and that kind of thing. And so while their cantrips are good, there isn't anything in there that's exceptional in terms of damage output. Now, when you look at the Artificer spell list as a whole, and this is true at first level all the way up through the 5th level spells, most of the spells are going to be either utility or out of combat effects and that kind of thing, or support or control effects. There are very few damage spells on their list. The ones that they have are pretty mediocre, and they usually come with control effect. So that's an important thing here. They are going to be quite durable due to the fact they have medium armor and shields, as well as the Constitution saving efficiency. At level 2, they get kind of one of their core big things for the Artificer, which is infusions, their infused item feature. And this is a really interesting one. It's kind of like Warlock invocations. There's a big list of Artificer infusions that you can pick. You get to know 4 at this level, and you can have up to 2 items infused at a time. Now, importantly, you can switch out your infused items on a long rest, and you can also use any item that you've infused as a spellcasting focus. So there's a wide variety of infusions. I'm not going to go over them in detail here, but there's things that can improve your armor, improve your weapons, improve your spellcasting focus, make it easier for you to maintain concentration, fortify your strength. You can replicate certain magic items, and the strength of your infusions, you unlock better and better ones as you get to a higher and higher level. And so with the infusions and the prepared list, you already have a pretty massive set of things that you can swap out on a long rest. And one of the things that's really cool about the Artificer is if you have an expectation of what is going to come in the days ahead, you can kind of retool your character and change them based on what you think you're going to encounter. And this comes into that core flexibility class. So there are a wide variety of infusions that help offense, defense, and potentially add utility. There's also a summon one where you can build a homunculus or a mechanical servant and that kind of thing. Importantly, the infusions don't actually have to be used by the Artificer, and I think this is something a lot of people overlook when they're designing an Artificer build, is you can infuse your allies' items. Now, the items have to be mundane, so you can't make your allies' magic item better, but the fact that you can buff your allies just lends a strength to the Artificer that I think isn't as apparent on paper necessarily. And because you can swap out your infusions among the ones that you know on a long rest, again, that's that flexibility play. Another thing that is really cool here is you get easy and guaranteed magic item access just by being a level 2 Artificer. And this is something where the Artificer can oftentimes jump ahead of the other party members in terms of offense or defense, or help someone else out in that area, because once they hit level 2, they can make a +1 weapon, they can make a +1 armor, and that is a big, significant impact. So at level 3, Artificers, they get an extra first level spell slot, which is nice. And they also get the right tool for the job, which this is an interesting feature. It basically allows you to magically create a set of artisans tools that as long as you have Tinker's tools. So you can use this to make thieves tools, not carry around as many tools. It's a pretty useful thing, but again, more of a flavor type deal. Now, they also get their Artificer Specialist, their subclass here, and there are 4. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but I'll just kind of talk about them at a very high level. So they have the Alchemist, which focuses on elixirs and potions and that kind of thing. They have the Armorer, which focuses on building and using an enhanced suit of armor. They have the Artillerist, which focuses on having this cannon and kind of blasting. And they have the Battlesmith, which focuses on, they have this Steel Guardian pet that they fight alongside. And so the subclasses are widely different, and I'm not going to cover how they, or um, talk about how they impact the core role of the class in this video. Um, so just wanted to say that they're out there, and I'll do a little bit of an overview of kind of what type of features you get at each level, but I'm not going to dive down this video. So when you get your subclass, you also get their defining feature, and each subclass gets 2 additional spells that they're always prepared as their subclass spells. So you get their level 1 spells. At level 4, you get your first ability score increase or feat, and this is standard. They follow the standard feat progression. Now, at level 5, they are now a 3rd level caster, so they get that extra 1st level spell slot, and the 2nd level spells are now available. All the subclasses get a feature here, and on pretty much all of them, this is a damage boost. Some of them get extra attack, some of them get to start adding their intelligence modifier to their damage with spells and that kind of thing. So it's pretty universally a damage boost here. They also get their 2nd level subclass spells. Now again, the 2nd level spells on the Artificer list are mainly support and utility with a little bit of control, and any options that deal damage are pretty mediocre and usually come with control effect. So you're kind of starting to see, again, the spell list is playing a pretty big role in what this class does. Now, at level 6, they get tool expertise. So any tool that you're proficient in, you are now an expert in, which means you get to double your proficiency bonus. And this is a really nice thing to have. It can potentially make you the primary lockpicker if your group didn't already have one. And this kind of, again, leads into that infiltrator and investigator type role that this character can have depending on your skills and your party composition. Now, your infused item feature also improves at this level. You get to learn 2 more infusions, and I should mention you can swap out what infusions you know whenever you level up. You can also have 3 items infused at a time here instead of 2, and you get access to the 2nd tier of infusions. So these are another list of more powerful things that you can do, and it expands the list of magic items that you can replicate. You also learn an extra cantrip here, which is okay, not a huge deal, but it's there. Now, at level 7, they get the Flash of Genius feature. And what this does is, as a reaction, you can add your intelligence modifier to an ability check or a saving throw made within 30 feet of you. This can be yours or an ally's. And it doesn't specifically say when you can do this, but most tables I've played at, you can use it after the roll is made, but before the DM says what the result is. So if you think you're close, you can bump a save over the mark. And you can use this a number of times per long rest equal to your intelligence modifier. And again, this is a great potential defensive and support thing, not only for you, but also for your allies. And it can work both in combat and out of combat. So that makes this really flexible and, in my opinion, quite useful. And, if you think it's going to make the difference between success and failure, don't hold back on using it. They also get an extra 2nd level spell slot here due to the nature of casters. At level 8, they get their 2nd ability score increase or feat, and again, this is following the normal progression. Now, at level 9, this is when 3rd level spells are coming online, so we get those 3rd level spell slots, and we get our 3rd level subclass spells, and we also get another subclass feature here. This is generally an improvement to the core features of the class. It's just going to add on to the stuff that you got at level 3. At level 10, we learn another cantrip, and we get the Magic Item Adept feature. This allows us to attune to up to 4 magic items at a time instead of 3, as well as reducing our crafting time and cost when we're making uncommon or lower rarity magic items. Now, this is a pretty cool thing that is unique to Artificers in terms of increasing your attunement slots. Now, a lot of the cool Artificer infused items, it makes them a magic item. And so this will allow you to attune to more things. So you can potentially use more of those powerful attune used items as well as magic items that your DM might give you. Now at level 10, we get to learn 2 more infusions. We can have up to 4 items infused at a time. And we get the tier 3 infusions unlocked. And these ones are quite powerful. And again, the further you go, the more powerful the infusions get. Also, I think there's 3 early infusions that improve at level 10. So the one that bumped the armor class of a piece of armor up by 1 now bumps it up by 2. So basically, all the basic +1s are now +2s, whether it's armor, weapons, or spellcasting focuses. Now, at level 11, they get an extra 3rd level spell slot, but they also get the spell storing item feature. And this is one of the Artificer's most powerful features, and it's really, really cool. So let me explain what it does. So at the end of a long rest, you can pick a simple or martial weapon or an item that bears one of your infusions, and you can store a 1st or 2nd level spell off of the Artificer list in it, and you don't have to have that spell prepared. And then anyone who's holding that item can then cast the spell that's in it using their action. And importantly, if the spell requires concentration, whoever cast it gets to maintain the concentration, and the spell uses your spellcasting modifier. And they can cast the spell a number of times equal to twice your intelligence modifier per long rest. Now, this is super powerful. One of the things that you can do with this, as an example, you can take a dagger and you can store, say, a control spell like web in it. Then you can give the dagger to your homunculus servant that you created with an infusion, and now that thing can cast the web spell for you. So you could essentially have 2 concentration spells up at the same time once you have this feature going. One that you concentrate on, and one whoever you give your spell storing item is concentrating on. Pardon me, I am sick. So this is something that is really nice. And, this is the one of the only classes in the game that can potentially concentrate on 2 spells like this, and this is a super powerful and super fun feature. Now, level 12, we get our 3rd ability score increase or feat. Again, we're following the regular schedule. At level 13, we get another round of subclass spells, and we get access to 4th level spells and slots on the Artificer list. And again, the same as the spells have been, these are largely support, utility, out of combat things, and any spells that deal damage on this list are quite weak and usually come with control effect. At level 14, we get the Magic Item Savant feature, and we can now attune to 5 items instead of 4. And we also ignore any attunement requirements items might have, whether that's class or race or attributes or level or that kind of thing. And this is a pretty cool thing. You can now use pretty much any magic item that the group gets. You will learn another cantrip, and you get to learn 2 more infusions, and can now have 5 infused items at a time. And you have unlocked the highest tier, the 4th tier of infusions here. So eventually we will learn more infusions, but we'll have access to all of them once you're level. At level 15, you get an extra 4th level spell slot, but you also get your last subclass feature, your capstone. And these are typically quite powerful, and there's a wide variety of to them. But I'm not going to go into detail on the subclass feature. At level 16, we get our 4th ability score increase or feat, and yes, they follow the regular schedule. At level 17, we now get access to 5th level spells and our 5th level spells from our subclass. Now, unlike the lower level spells, there are some pretty powerful summon spells that the Artificer gets access to at this level, including animate objects, which can potentially help your damage dealing. But again, most of the spells on the list are out of combat, control, or support type spells. And that hasn't changed since we were level 1, and it's not changed. Again, the cool thing is that Artificers are prepared casters, so you can configure your spell list however you want based on what you think you're going to encounter during the next adventuring. At level 18, they get the Magic Item Master feature, and they can now attune to 6 items. You learn a 6th cantrip, and you learn 2 more infusions and can now infuse up to 6 items at a time. At level 19, they get their final ability score increase or feat, the 5th one. Again, this is on the regular schedule, and they get a 2nd 5th level spell slot. And at level 20, you get the Artificer capstone, which is called Soul of Artifice. And this gives you a bonus to all your saving throws equal to the number of attuned items you have, And again, because of our feature we got, this is a maximum of 6. And this is a huge, huge bonus. If you get to level 20 Artificer, you will become super duper tanky against spells because of this. You can also end one of your infusions with your reaction to drop to 1 hit point instead of 0 if you weren't killed outright by damage. And again, this is another thing that makes you very tanky. You basically have 6 casts of Death Ward on yourself, provided that you don't take too much damage. And this capstone makes the Artificer incredibly tanky. So let's talk about multiclassing with the Artificer a little bit. So the minimum stat requirement you need to have to either take levels in Artificer or take levels in a different class if you started as Artificer is 13 intelligence. When you gain your first level in Artificer, if it wasn't your first class, you get proficiency in light and medium armor, shields, thieves tools, and tinker's tools. And the number of spell slots it adds when calculating your caster level is you add half of your Artificer levels rounded up. Now this is actually unique among half casters. All the other ones round your level count rounded down. And this is due to the fact that Artificers get those spells at level 1. Now, the really interesting thing here is if you, take 1 level in Artificer as another caster, it doesn't actually slow down your spell slot progression because of this. Now, Artificer multiclasses best with Wizard. And this was probably pretty obvious. Wizard is the only other intelligence primary caster in the game. And so if a character who wants to be a wizard takes their first level in Artificer, they get Constitution saves, they get the medium armor and shields, and it doesn't negatively impact their spell slot progression. They will be a level behind in terms of what spells they know, but the tankiness that you get for just being a single level Artificer, as well as access to some spells you might not get otherwise, like Cure Wounds, makes a single level Artificer dip very, very powerful on a wizard. Some wizards might take a couple more Artificer levels to pick up a subclass and get a few more things, but really, whether you want to, play a wizard or potentially play an Artificer, an Artificer can also benefit quite well from a small dip in Wizard for some defensive spells, which they normally lack, as well as better damage spells. So, again, Wizard is probably the single best pairing with Artificer, whether you want to be mainly an Artificer or mainly a Wizard and to use Artificer well. It can also work pretty well with Fighter and Rogue. Both of these classes have an intelligence-based subclass. So Fighter has Eldritch Knight and Rogue has Arcane Trickster. And a little bit of Artificer can potentially go very well with those. These 3 are what I would say the classes that have the most straightforward multiclassing with Artificer. But depending on your concept and what subclasses you take, there's a lot of other ones that can work across all classes. So, summary and ratings. So, again, I am only looking at the capabilities of the core class. Now, when it comes to offense, I give them a 1 out of 5, which is going to be my minimum rating when it comes to these. Now, the reason for this is because really they are not built to deal damage. Their spell list, anything that does damage is pretty mediocre, and they don't have any real standouts on their cantrips that can make them a powerful damage dealer. Again, when we look at the subclasses, I will note how they impact the ratings of the core class. But if you look at the core Artificer on its own without any of its subclasses, it is a very poor damage. Now, defensively, however, I give the Artificer a 4 out of 5. And this is largely because they have potentially access to a very good armor class early with their medium armor and shields and some of the infusions that you can take to boost your armor class. You can be very resilient against attacks against your AC. Your hit points are pretty average, but you also have that really good Constitution save, and you have a lot of infused items as well as later class features, especially if you can get up to level 20, that contribute to your defense. Now, the reason I don't give the core class a 5 is really the lack of abjuration spells you can use to situationally help yourself. Now, if you multiclass the Artificer or take specific subclasses, you can solve this on its own, and you can potentially make a very tanky character. But as it's on its own, as just the core part of the chassis, the Artificer is actually quite a good defensive class. Now, control. This is kind of how I rate the character's ability to buff and debuff enemies and kind of provide that kind of battlefield control. And I give them a 3 out of 5 here, so right about average. While they do have a very good selection of spells, and some of their class features can help with this a little bit, the reason that they're not higher here is because they are a half caster and they don't get access to a lot of the premier control spells. They have some good ones, and which can be effective, but once you start to get to higher tier, their control abilities aren't necessarily going to be that strong. And again, this is largely because they're a half caster. So good, but not great. Now, their support capabilities. They are actually quite good at this. With Flash of Genius, as well as your ability to give others your infusions, and as well as their spell list and cantrips, they're actually pretty good at this. Now, the reason, again, they're not rated higher is that they're not a full caster and don't have access to some of the premium healing tools like Healing Word or some of the capabilities of other classes. That said, they are pretty good at this, and the fact that you can do control or support on a reasonably durable character, potentially both, is something that the Artificer has that is quite good. Now, skills. This is basically how I think of this character in terms of their out-of-combat skill check abilities. Now, the reason they're not rated lower is the fact that they get so many tool proficiencies and the tool expertise. Now, the reason that they're not as high is expertise with tools isn't usually as applicable as expertise in a skill. Expertise in Thieves' tools is pretty good, but again, they don't have as many skill proficiencies as those kind of more skill focused characters, and they're not, at the same time, they are better than characters that don't lean as heavy into the skill realm. Now, the last category is complexity, and this is a measure of how difficult this character class is to play as a whole. And a lower rating here is easier, and a high rating is harder. And I give the Artificer a 5 out of 5 for complexity. I think at its core, Artificer is one of, if not the most complex classes in the game, with a huge myriad of choices. This is because they're a prepared caster. You can change your spells every single long rest. You can change out your infusions every single long rest, and twice as many as you could ever put on anything. Also, a lot of their subclasses have things that, again, you can swap out on a long rest. And the ability of the Artificer to retool itself and make a character essentially that could play completely different from one game session to the next makes this class very complicated. At the same time, it's not necessarily very beginner friendly because a lot of the power of the class is wrapped up into this flexibility. And if you just see someone who's using the Artificer and isn't taking advantage of this, they're not going to be very powerful, and the class might feel a luster. So, overall, though, they are a really cool class, and we will see how the subclasses impact this when we get to those on. So, thank you for watching this video about the Artificer. Is there anything that you agreed with, disagreed with, and anything I missed? Please let me know in the comments. The opinions and the ratings here are obviously mine, and if you have a different opinion, I would love to hear. So, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time in this series for, I believe it's going to be Barbarian. So, thanks for watching. I'm Nathan, and I will see you next time.